Joining us now for the interview is Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass in the city's Emergency Operations Center. Madam Mayor, thank you so much for being here. I know this is a critical time. I appreciate you taking the time to be with us.
Thanks for having me on, Rachel.
First, what can you tell us tonight in terms of the situation in the streets of Los Angeles?
Well, let me just tell you that there was a big rally today this afternoon because, you know, as part of the action, as part of the raid that took place on Friday, one of our city's most esteemed labor leaders, David Huerta, was arrested. He was injured during the arrest. He was detained over the weekend, and he had an arraignment, and he was released today. So that there was a rally denouncing the ICE actions, but also celebrating the fact that he was out. And it was a peaceful rally. What is going on right now is also peaceful. The rally has ended. People are lingering around the federal building, but we do not have any problems with violence taking place in our city right now.
I'm glad you raised the issue of David Huerta. We saw not only that large turnout today in Los Angeles demanding his release and supporting him after he was violently arrested, I think it's fair to say, having seen the tape of that arrest. But we also saw solidarity rallies and marches all around the country for David Huerta today. Union members and their supporters and people who are just horrified by what they saw marching today and demanding his release. I wonder, Mayor Bass, how you are seeing right now the sort of balance between what I think is the sort of obvious and palpable effect of and effectiveness of peaceful protest and the federal government treating it as a national security disaster that requires these extraordinary responses from the federal government and the U.S. military. How do you weigh those two views of it?
Let me just say, Rachel, that on Thursday of last week, Los Angeles was peaceful. There were no problems here. There was nothing happening in our city that warranted raids that took place the next day, that terrified and terrorized the city. People go to work, and then they have no idea that their workplace is going to be invaded and it is going to be an enforcement action. And you remember when the administration started, he talked about violent criminals, drug dealers. How do you go from a drug dealer to chasing people through the parking lot of a Home Depot where there's day laborers working, just trying to survive? So this entire situation is what leaves us believing that we're being used as a test case. So I talked to the administration. I was trying to tell them that they didn't need to have the National Guard come here because we had a protest. There was violence that took place. There was vandalism that took place, primarily in the form of graffiti. It was around 120 people. We are a city of 3.8 million. Our police department could take care of that. So what is the reason to bring the National Guard in? Supposedly it's to protect federal property and federal employees. The National Guard is deployed to one building in downtown Los Angeles, another building in Westwood where there have never been any protests in relation to ICE raids, but we did not need this to happen. This was a solution in search of a problem. And it has left the city in fear. Let me give you a couple of examples that immigrant rights organizations told me about today. These are legal people. They might not be citizens, but they go for their annual appointment at the immigration building. They're showing up because they were asked to show up. And then they get detained. They come with their children. They come with their families thinking that they're there for a routine appointment, and they get arrested. What does that have to do with public safety? It's not what he described it was going to be initially. That's why we feel we're an experiment for the use of federal power taking over the state or taking over a city.
I saw that the Los Angeles Police Chief, Jim McDonnell, put a statement out today essentially lamenting the additional troops that are now going to be sent by the Trump administration, saying that now that they're going to send active duty Marines, the police chief said the Marines' arrival without coordinating with the police department would present a, quote, significant logistical and operational challenge for Los Angeles police. I mean, is there any sense in which the National Guard or now indeed these Marines are helpful, or in fact, are they interfering with the city and the state's ability to respond?
They are not helpful. There was no reason for them to be here in the first place. If anything, it was a provocation. And so I said, if you want to see chaos in the city, then send in troops when they are not needed. There was nothing happening here. There was no mass civil unrest. I will tell you that some of the pictures that you see on the national news looks like our entire city is in civil unrest. You are talking about a handful of streets in downtown Los Angeles. Now, I will tell you the vandalism that has taken place is absolutely atrocious in the form of graffiti, obscene graffiti all over. Clearly, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of damage. But I don't think you send out the Army or the Marines because people are writing graffiti on a wall. And then you saw violence yesterday where they were setting cars on fire. Let me be very clear. To me, if you really support the rights of immigrants, you're not setting cars on fire. You're not vandalizing buildings. And so I don't think that that is acceptable. You are going to be subject to arrest and prosecution to the full extent of the law. But we should not use that to say then that our city needs to be taken over by the military.
Let me just ask you, Mayor Bass, some of the rhetoric around this has been frankly insane and definitely threatening. We've had the members of the Trump administration threatening that the governor should be arrested, suggesting that you should be arrested. So the president suggesting that California, that Los Angeles was on the verge of obliteration, as if the city was going to be wiped off the map had he not swooped in and rescued everybody. Given that sort of level of fervor and sort of bizarre proclamation from the federal government, how do you think this ends? How do you think this resolves in the end?
Well, I mean, I will just tell you that what we are calling for is an end to the raids. These raids do not need to take place. You are talking about people's places of work. You're talking about schools. You're talking about other things that have been completely unnecessary. Sometimes it's not a raid. Just seeing ICE roam around our city in their cars and all of that creates a sense of fear. So how is it going to end? I don't know, Rachel. We're not sure how much longer this is going to go on. Rumors say they're going to be doing raids for the next 30 days. What does that mean? How many raids in a day? Where are they going to take place? Who is going to be taken in? You have a situation like we did in the last Trump administration where kids were afraid to go to school because they weren't sure their parents would be there, where people were afraid to go to work. And you just think about the disruption in families. You might have a father that's going into a warehouse or a plant. You might have a mother who is serving as a child care worker on the other side of town, either in somebody's home or not. You disrupt the entire ecosystem. You impact our overall economy. If people are afraid to go to work, this is a city of immigrants. If they're afraid to go to work, you are going to hit our economy in a way that is completely unnecessary. This is a problem that started on Friday morning when the raids happened. This did not need to take place.
Los Angeles Mayor Karen Bass. Madam Mayor, I know you are right in the middle of it. I really appreciate your taking the time to talk with us this evening. Good luck. Stay in touch.
Sure. Thank you.
Right.